Welcome, fellow last placers, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where Chris and I talk about comic books. Well, we don't talk about comic books. We talk about movies, TV shows, and anime.
It's in shambles. The
We
building
messed
goes
up,
up in
but
flames.
but you know what? One day we might talk about comic books. So you
Yeah,
know what?
maybe.
Let me just I did suggest Chris a comic book. So maybe when he gets there, we'll probably do a
I'm
debrief
waiting
on
for
there. So
I'm
I
waiting for
wasn't
cooler weather. Gonna
Yeah,
read
so I
outside.
probably wasn't completely wrong. All
Yeah,
right.
that's
But
all right.
in today's episode, we are going to talk about Venom 2 Let There Be Carnage by Sony Pictures. We're going to do a quick debrief. But before we get into that, we start every episode the same way we do by shaming Yendi for not watching the content that we do. So, shame. And on top of that, he was literally just in the Discord. So we shamed him
Facts.
before doing this. So and then always, guys, please, if you like our content, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We are doing a mouse giveaway once we hit 100 subs. Let us give you a mouse. Steel Series 3 wireless. All right.
Yeah.
It's a great mouse. You'll enjoy it, and you can be lucky enough to win it. And
And
as always, there is spoilers
yeah.
ahead. So
Also, great surprise for our debrief fans. You guys are the first to see our little Halloween things in the corner. Alan can't see them right now. They're right there, and that's it's spooky. So it's
Yeah, it
there.
is.
Yeah.
It is spooky season, so yeah. And this is kind of a, I guess it could be put as a spooky movie. It's not really that scary. But anyway, we're gonna get
Not at
into
all.
our debrief about this. Anyway, Chris, what'd you think of Venom 2 Let There Be Carnage?
I had fun with it. I had fun. I'm not gonna say like drop everything and go to the movie and see it. It was kind of like the first one I enjoyed. I had fun with it. It's just not like this one felt very fast and very
30
gimmicky.
minutes. So
Yeah. So yeah, hour 30 minutes. It was very quick. I knew I had to see it as soon as everybody was like we're keeping up with all the hero stuff. But when everybody was talking about the end credit scene, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, I knew I had to go see it before it got spoiled for me. So literally went for the end credit scene. But like I said, I got some laughs, had some funny moments, but overall, like it was an okay movie, not like movie of the year quality or anything like that. So
I don't
yeah,
think anyone was putting it in that
nah, yeah,
picture.
no.
For me, it was a much of the first one, and I didn't enjoy the first movie. I thought and I guess I enjoy Tom Holland. Like I think he's a great actor. I think he's doing what he can with the role. I just think
Oh
those
wait.
movies
You said Tom Holland?
are Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
So
Okay. I was like,
yeah.
wait.
So like I enjoy those I enjoy him and I enjoy the relationship, but to me it's a bad Venom movie because it just doesn't ever really feel like Venom. And yes, you could say, well, you're basing it out of the comic books. Well, this is what the character is based off of. So, yes, in a sense I am, but also none of those either one of the movies never set up the character right for me. It always felt like we were dealing with something that wasn't very like structured and it was very separated from the universe, which it is, but it's also like the first movie, for instance, I just felt like they always cheated the system by having it in dark scenes, so you didn't really get to see Venom, and you didn't really get to see like the. And in this movie, they did a better job at that, but still, it was just very like. I feel like if Tom Hardy and Venom weren't on the screen, then the movie was just not worth it, and then you kind of like force yourself into needing them, which is why that part in the movie where they like they separated, it was kind of like,
It was
you
awkward.
know
It
what?
felt. I was just like, this is kind of.
But then you're also giving Venom, like you're giving the symbiote too much personality at that point because it's like I get why you're doing this because you're playing off the first one, but also it's like that's just seems very like, oh, you've gotten to the anti-hero part way too quickly in my opinion. Like, and I guess, later on we're going to kind of set up to get to where we need to be, but to me it's just it like you said, the movie to me feels very gimmicky. It feels like
They really
a
focused
very
on the
like
argument, like them arguing all the
yeah.
time for the comedy. I was just like, okay, you guys are
Mhm.
felt like I get it. The whole first movie it was just like them trying to get along,
Yeah.
but obviously there's been some time now, and they're still doing the
Mhm.
same thing, and he's just getting annoyed, and Venom's kind of be like taking that child role, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. And I was like, okay,
And
you guys are
it's
focusing way too much on this.
yeah, and it's just very like to me, it just felt very, it felt very out of like it felt rushed, which was one thing, but it also didn't feel necessary, right? The movie itself to me didn't feel necessary. I didn't feel like we further advanced his character, right? And that's one of the things that I look for the most in a sequel is if you're going to make a sequel movie, I want to see that character make an advancement in characters. Like we really by the end of this movie, we really pretty much are at the same spot, right? Like, yeah, at first it wasn't a full cohesion. Now it is, but like I felt like we were cohesive at the end of the last movie because you needed that in order to survive the last movie. So like, what did their care like? You just became more cohesive, which makes it to me feel like you just released a movie to release the movie, and I don't like when sequels just release like at least in and I'm not gonna like for instance Spider-Man 1 to 2, right? Like you Peter's a different character from Homecoming than he is from uh what you call it, Far From Home, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of the growth you want, and I don't feel like we've gotten pretty much any growth from Eddie Brock, right? It's just he's just like pretty much the same kind of guy, except like his ex fiance kind of helped him with this, so he kind of mended that relationship. But it felt very bleh to me, like, and I can't really explain that. And Woody Harrelson, who I love, I
I
love
love him a
Woody
lot too. And
Harrelson
in
as a
this movie,
character,
it felt
but
very
it's just
awkward. Like I was just like, bro, it seems like it seems
yeah.
very robotic that the way they were like delivering the script was very like, okay,
It
everything
just felt
is
like, yes,
everything
I'm a
has to be
psychopath
poetry.
kind
Yeah.
of thing, but it's just very like it just feels like okay, this feels very like it feels fake. It feels like I don't know. It felt like he was acting, right? And that's what
Yeah.
I guess what I'm going to go with. Like it felt like he was literally acting, and that's a problem. Like I don't like knowing that I know that he's acting, and that could totally be just me and the way that I interpreted it. There was a lot of issues with this movie, and
Hmm.
one of those main issues is I just didn't the reason behind it, the premise of why all of this happened also just seemed so off. Like, you know what I mean? It was just like, okay, Cletus Cassidy is this crazy dude, right? And then he's this crazy dude, and Eddie Brock is trying to solve this murder, right? And it's like not even solve the murder because he didn't know about Cletus until the end of the last movie. And then it's like, well, I'm just a reporter on, I do some reporting stuff, so I'm going to report. I'm just going to randomly like be like, "Oh, I want to do a meeting with this guy again so I could try to figure out these murders," which was never his goal anyway. Like it was never like we never got the sense that that was something he was trying to do.
Also, am I
You know what I
crazy?
mean?
Did he had crazy curly hair at the end of the first one, right? Is that in my
Yes.
head? Okay. I
That
was
no,
like,
he did because they were trying to feed what the comic book character looks like because
yeah, because in
Cletus
this one, as soon
Cassidy
as he
is a
showed up,
redhead.
it was kind of like it felt like they were continuing, and then he had the normal red hair. I was like,
Well, because
wait, what's
everyone was
going
saying how ridiculous that wig was on Woody Harrelson at the end of it of the first one, so everyone they just took it off. Which again, I don't mind. You don't have to look exactly
on?
like the
No, no,
comic
no.
book
Yeah.
character because Tom Hardy doesn't look like Eddie Brock at all. Like you know what I mean? Because Eddie Brock's just like blonde hair, tall, blue eyed character. So like that doesn't bother me. But I mean, it's just it from that point you could tell we were going to be in a certain thing.
Yeah.
I will say moments that I did like. I did find it very interesting that they did use Cletus Cassidy's like original origin, kind of. They came really close to it. Not with the symbiote. I'm just talking about Cletus Cassidy's like actual with an abusive father, and he had like his and all that stuff. Like his childhood was really messed up, which is why he becomes crazy and then starts to react and stuff like that. I also found it very interesting that they even pretty much hinted at mutants, which Shriek is the character that Woody Harrelson is in love with,
Yeah.
is Shriek from the X-Men. So like she's not an X-Men, but she's a character from X-Men and she's a mutant. So I did find it interesting that Sony kind of got into the little a little mutant stuff, which is really like it's not odd because they never actually called her a mutant, but it is interesting because like that was a Fox thing. So seeing how that worked out, and I don't, there's so many contracts and things like that that are like that we don't know about, but having pretty much a mutant, and them kind of mentioning mutations and stuff like that was pretty interesting to me, because I was like, huh, that, which is when you start to feel like, the things are getting, like, things are getting put into place, and all that good stuff is starting to happen. So it was a cool, they did the cool eye thing too, which is what was pretty much like, oh, that Shriek,
Yeah.
like pretty much I was like, oh, like I already knew who it was. She, like, I saw the powers, and then I was like, are they gonna do the eye thing? And then when she gets shot, I was like, oh, it's Shriek. They totally just did Shriek. So I thought that was cool. Like, you know what I mean? So they had moments for sure. I thought it was cool with the mulligan thing, where his eyes kind of glow at the end, which is a hint to toxin, which is like an off spawn of Carnage, essentially, because he gets infected. Because remember, he gets stabbed and all that good stuff. So that's where they're going with that, and that's why they showed the Carnage like bleeding through blood, is so they could do that. Which again,
Gotcha.
yeah, which is why like a lot of people didn't know, like, because you see him at the end and you're like, well, how's he alive? Like, he literally got his back broken on this thing, like, so that's pretty much what they were doing with that. So again, there's some moments in the movie that I enjoyed. I thought Mrs. Chen was great. Which, if you were looking closely, though, if you read the, like, when they walk in the back, when they walk back in with the his ex fiance, I forget her name, but when they walk back in, she actually had the book she's reading has Stan Lee on it.
Oh,
So it has,
really?
yeah, and that's his little cameo on
Oh,
it. If you got to look close, and I was like, oh snap, like real close. But like they showed enough, but I saw it in Dolby, so
yeah.
when you see it in Dolby, you just don't miss anything because everything's so clear. And if you guys haven't watched a movie in Dolby, please treat yourself to a Dolby movie. You'll never go back.
Yeah, mine had a
But yeah.
crying baby in the movie.
Oh no. See, that's one of those things where just like I will not
It was
deal with
quiet. It
that.
was
Like,
quiet during the quiet scenes, and then as soon as the fight, like the fights started happening, or when they break out of prison,
yeah.
and Carnage just screaming the whole time.
Oh yeah, just
Baby starts screaming. Yeah, it's like, oh,
which is another thing to me, right? Speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up. When Carnage is screaming like that, that's a very intense sound. Why doesn't the symbiote come off? Even though it's causing the noise, it still has ears, it still can hear itself. It makes no sense to me that they can just be roaring at each other, and then, like, as loud as it's supposed to be, or as loud as they make it seem, none of the symbiotes go off. Like, you know what I mean?
one of my favorite moments too that I, unfortunately, the guy next to me probably thought I was crazy because I started laughing. But when Cletus finds the car and he jumps in the car, he's like, "Oh yeah," gets in, drives away. As soon as he picks up the girl, and she's like, "It's my dream car. How'd you know?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah." He just walked the street. There it is on the road. Here we go,
Dude, like out of nowhere. Like he just like literally comes out of the insane asylum, and like Ravencroft, which is also pretty much that it's also a comic book reference, because that's like Marvel's Arkham Asylum.
Oh, gotcha.
But
Okay.
yeah, which again, I agree with you 100%. Out of nowhere, like, oh, I just so happened to find your dream car out here. Like,
They could have went without her saying that. I would have been like, okay, cool. He found a cool car. Great. But as soon as he pulls
yeah,
up and she's like, "It's my favorite," he's like, "Yeah, I remembered." And I was like, "What?" I was like,
like,
"You weren't looking for this."
but that's one thing, you weren't looking for it. And how did you just come across that? Because most people's dream car are not cars that you just find on the streets.
No.
And that was a pretty rare car. And all of a sudden, just like, you know what I mean? And for the person who has that car, for like, what? Just, you know what I mean? Like, huh?
I mean, I'm
I
being
didn't get
nitpicky
that
there, but
scene.
that part, I was just like,
No, that's not
I
nitpicking.
start.
That's bad. That's bad.
I was laughing. The guy looked at me like, "Wait, did I miss something?" And I was like, "Bro,
Mm,
I don't understand how this is working out, but okay, I'll keep going with it."
yeah.
Sure. The guy that kept screaming, whenever the doctor passes him, and he's like, "I'm gonna get you," or whatever. And she's like, "You're not getting out." She says his number, and she's like, "Nobody ever gets out." Right.
Oh,
And then
I
later
don't
on, the
know.
cops come by and it cuts to that guy again. He's like, "Monsters,
Yeah.
there's monsters," and all this other stuff.
I don't know who that's supposed to
Okay. All
be.
right. Cool.
Honest. Like,
Probably nobody
I'll
important
probably have
then.
to watch it again, but I did not catch that on the
Okay.
first one. The other thing that they were referencing from comic books is when he does the that whole, like, we're the lethal protector and stuff like that. That was
That
just
was
him
that
doing.
felt very random to me. I
Well, it's
also
not, because that's when he becomes like an anti-hero, like when Venom himself becomes an anti-hero.
yeah, but they both say it,
So,
and that's whenever I was just like, okay, I don't know. Did they say this before
well,
or
no, they didn't say it before, but them saying it together was,
like them
that's a
showing like,
nod to
oh,
the
they're like,
well, yeah,
okay,
well, because the line at the end when he goes like, when he's supposed to go, we are Venom.
yeah,
That was one of that's like like one of their famous lines. It's like,
gotcha,
we are Venom. Like if you remember Marvel vs. Capcom 2, that's his intro.
yeah,
It's literally, we are Venom, and then it goes like, so. But that's like a famous comic book thing. That's why they didn't make him say it. He kind of just like brushed over it, kind of like he was trying to say it, and then Venom like interrupts it. But anyway, we're gonna now, spoilers again. Now we're gonna get to the part that we probably actually want to talk about, because yes, the end credit scene, which, if you remember, I don't know what episode I did, but I feel like it was one of the what ifs, or maybe it was a Loki episode. But we have a lot of
yeah.
those episodes at this point. But we get to the end credit scene, multiverse stuff starts to happen, and instantly I knew, before I walked into this movie, I knew that we were going to see Spider-Man, Tom Holland. I knew it was happening. Like, there wasn't a shadow of a doubt. I had no doubt. I was willing to bet anyone who wanted that we were going to see Tom Holland, because if you remember the original Sony, and Disney dispute, they were talking about, hey, we want, like, because because Sony wanted Venom in the MCU, and that was part of one of the original agreement kind of things. They didn't like make it all public, but that was part of the reason why it was like, well, Sony wanted more money or didn't want to bend to Disney's deal, and then doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
So when all that happened, and then once you see the shift on the when they're sitting there, and then once you see the shift, I was like, we're in the MCU. Like, I knew, didn't need to see them. And then they were also hinting at Daily Bugle being existent. And I was like, you're not going to like redo this thing. Like, you're going to bring him into there, which obviously you needed to do, right? Because we need Venom to actually become Venom, like the real Venom that we want to see, right? So I did, as soon as that happened, and he was like, Spider-Man, he's a menace, he's a thing, and Tom Holland shows up, and people start going, ah. I kind of wasn't like, I was happy just to like reassure that I was right, on the sense of like, I knew this was going to happen, but it is like one of those things where you really feel good, because you're like, all right, it's in the like it's like framed, like it's going to happen, like we know it's going to happen. It's kind of like the guarantee, because like once you see it, it's like when you write something down, when you're like, okay, we know, and you sign for it, you're like, all right, we know for sure this is happening. And that was how I felt about it. I was like, we're finally gonna get Venom like written properly, and it's gonna be out of Sony's hands, because once he comes over to MCU, like that's,
Yeah, it's a
the
wrap, man.
MCU writers, it's not Sony anymore. Like, they're going to fix him the way that a lot of us want to, even though this Venom would destroy this Spider-Man, by the way, because like, I mean, it's just the truth, right? Because this Venom is not about like, trying like this. He doesn't have, even though it because remember, he licks the screen and then goes, oh, it's he goes him. So meaning the symbiote has a recognition
Connection, like
of
of
a
like,
Peter Parker,
gotcha.
which is why the whole thing with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, they can say whatever they want. I know that they're in this movie. Like, it's either like, I just know it. There's no way they're not in the end credit scene or somewhere in this movie, unless they do the thing where they just make 3 Tom Hollands and say, oh, these are different versions of Peter, which I feel like they're not going to do, because if that was the case, why would you even bring Alfred Molina and Jamie Foxx back? So I think my prediction, and I'll let you get to yours. My prediction is either this movie, I feel like No Way Home is there's 2 ways this movie is going to happen, right? Either we're going to get half of the movie is going to be Peter trying to clear his name, right? He's going to try to clear his name. He's going to look for some far-fetched way to try to do it. And then either that's going to be like the first half of that movie, right? And then the second half, we're going to get the multiverse, and then we're going to get Sinister Six in that movie. So now that we have Venom, right? We're going to have Venom. Vulture's going to break out, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have Doc Ock. We're going to have Electrode,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And then we're going to have, of course, there's no way we're not going to have Green Goblin, okay? It's just happening also. I just don't see it not happening. It's going to happen. And then they'll probably be like someone else at 6, right? They can pick from whoever they want. Maybe Rhino comes back. And then that's going to happen. And then that's when we get Toby and Andrew. Like either they fight, like they fight, and then they show up to help him with the help of Strange or whatever, or like, hey, or that's going to happen later, and we see our Peter, we see Tom Holland get whooped, and then the end credit scene is, I can't beat them, whatever, I need another way, and then he either goes to search for them, or they come out of a portal, and then Spider-Man 4 is the Sinister
So you think
Six.
we're going to get another cliffhanger?
I mean, to me, it depends on how much money.
That's the only movie that keeps doing it. They gave huge cliffhanger, and everybody's like, "What the hell, bro?"
But the thing is, that what better way?
Yeah, exactly.
To have because then you have all of the stuff out of the way, right? Like you have the identity stuff out of the way. You have all that stuff out of the way. The only reason why I'm kind of not against it, but I think that won't happen is because it depends on when the multiverse stuff gets fixed. Because if we think that it's all going to get fixed in Multiverse of Madness, then we can't, like, I would assume that he wouldn't, like, or they get stuck, right? Unless they get stuck somewhere. So we'll see. But those are my two theories. I think that's what we get in this next Spider-Man movie. I'm not willing to bet on it, but I'm this close.
Yeah, lost my train of thought actually just now.
God dang. What did you think of the end credit scene?
The end credit scene I loved a lot. It was really dope. I thought it was funny. The thing is, I wouldn't have known what was going on, that pulse, because unfortunately, right, I've avoided the Spider-Man trailer this whole time.
But you didn't need the trailer because I didn't watch the trailer.
Well, I know, but the trailer played in the theater right before the movie, and I was like, God dang it. And I could not, like, I didn't know what to do. Yeah, I panicked, and then I was just like,
close your eyes.
Yeah, I know, but I already heard so much about the trailer. I'm like, screw it. When the second trailer comes out, I'm not gonna watch it because that'll just give away more.
You already watched it.
I watched the first one, I know, but the second one is probably gonna give away more.
I don't even think they're gonna come out with the second one.
I heard they are, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I got a lot of information from the second trailer, and going in, seeing that end credit scene. Was cool. Kind of sucks that we got Jameson only a little bit again at the end.
I mean, we're gonna get I think he's gonna have like a full monologue at the beginning of this one.
I'm excited for it. I'm very excited. As far as Venom being introduced, I think at some point he's gonna get to Toby, and we're gonna get the whole dance scene again.
Oh no!
And and we're gonna relive that moment at some point.
No. It's not happening.
Because Spider-Man 3 is the best movie that has ever come out.
Listen, that will not happen. What will happen is they will reference that. I do think the reference of it is too good to pass up, but us seeing the whole thing, I don't know. Unless we see like a flashback of like,
I don't know. We should do a pre-debrief before the movie and just be like, because I think we're going to see the Spider-Man meme of them pointing. I'm sure that's going to come up. Like, you know,
I mean, we have already seen that in
Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, but still, like live action one would be
a live action version. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah, man. It's gonna be crazy. It's really gonna be crazy what the Spider-Man's gonna do. I still have no idea what's gonna happen. Even seeing the trailer, I'm like, there's so much going on here.
There is a lot, and that kind of worries me also.
Yeah,
like I love that a lot of this is happening, but it's also starting to feel like
you're gonna start losing.
Which is why my whole theory is like you have to split this in two movies without saying you're splitting it into two movies, because they already gave out the runtime for this, and it's supposed to be like 2 30 something, which is supposed to be like the third longest
Oh,
Marvel movie, right?
okay.
It's supposed to be right after the Avenger 4. So it's going to be an Avenger style movie.
Did
Like
they release
as
the
far as
cast?
like what? Yeah, they haven't released like everyone.
Okay,
Like
they can hold. They
they've
can hold
released
back on that.
Jamie
Okay.
Foxx,
Okay. Cool.
Alfred Molina.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to release your cast. You don't
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
tell anyone. You don't even have to come out with a trailer. In which I had a whole conversation with about Rob, if Rob is listening. But with the like you at Spider-Man is at the point, in my personal opinion,
That he didn't need a
especially a
trailer.
movie like that you don't need a
Yeah,
trailer.
because whenever that
And
rumor came out, I was like, I remember talking to my friend Aaron. Shout out to Aaron.
right,
I was like, he's like, oh man, I really want this trailer. I was like, bro, I
right.
honestly don't think they should do it because they
No,
don't need
but
it. Everybody's gonna show up. Like, why need a trailer? A trailer's to like tell you,
because
like, oh hey, come see our movie. But you know everybody's gonna go, and if nobody
my
watched the
theory,
trailer,
listen,
more people would go.
movies became trailers are not what they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Trailers are not designed to bring in people anymore because if you remember like how trailers used to be, because people don't watch traditional TV the way they used to, right? And that's when we used to see movie trailers. You either went to the movies or you saw it on TV, right? People don't watch movies like that because even as much as like I haven't even seen the Spider-Man trailer on anything. Like I watch a lot of live sports. I haven't seen it, like any of that stuff, right? But it had 300. It had in the first 24 hours. It had almost like what 400 million views on
Yeah.
YouTube. And that's what they've become. They've become like mini cash grabs because a lot of these, and I don't blame them, but a lot of people go, you still have to go and search out these trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not that I'm saying like you have to go on YouTube, but a lot of people either post it they share it or any of that stuff. But like a lot of the way that people go watch movies, like it's just kind of like reminders. Oh, this movie's coming out on this day, which I will agree. Like it is kind of like that. But some of these trailers don't even come out with the date of the movie anymore. So like, you know what I mean? I just think trailers are so much different now. They're just used to I would love to see a test. And I thought that me personally, this movie would have been the perfect test to see what your sales would have been without a trailer, because I still think even without a trailer, this movie would have made $1 billion easily.
Yeah.
Like
People
I
would
don't
have
think it
rushed to
would
be
have.
the first one to see it and leak stuff, trying to leak stuff. Everybody
Yeah.
would be in there trying to
And
do
I
something.
think if you would have done that, I think this movie in particular would have worked. Now, I'm not saying like movies that like you need to be introduced to characters or anything like that, but a trilogy movie at this point, you're going to watch this movie
Mm-hmm.
regardless. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many new people are coming in to watch this movie. Like, I feel like that number percentage is so like minuscule that it doesn't matter. But I don't know, because we will only find out if they ever did it. So that's my rant on that. But yeah, so pretty much that was our review for Venom, right? I mean, what was your favorite part of the movie, like we always do?
I'll give you
But
I'll give you two.
it's
I'll give you two
okay.
for this one.
Let me
Because it's
two.
yeah. One, my top one is that fight scene, the end fight scene, but with the when the bell rang and they kept separating, and it was
cool.
the two of them
That was
trying to
cool.
fight each other, and then they would go back and become them. I thought that was really dope, right?
Yeah.
My other one is man, I just had it. Probably when they're swinging, like Venom goes on a rampage and they get the phone call, and he's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I forgot her name. Her name's still Anne. Yeah, he's like, it's Anne, and he like stops. And he's holding him up, and he's like, "Pick up the phone, like answer the like his attachment."
She's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm hanging in there." Like, and
so,
I would agree. I think my favorite part was their banter was great. I think their banter was great. Tom Hardy's, like I said, is fantastic, and I love Tom Hardy, and I'll watch pretty much anything he's in. But I will say like,
and the father line is gonna be my third one actually. Though whenever he's like, "I'm here to kill you, father," and then the father's saying, he's like, "Not you, father, you, father."
Yeah. So, well, and then I loved Venom. Venom's reaction to that, because he was like, "Wait, what?" And then like he tried to like leave, and then he's like, "I need you back now," and he's like, "Nope, didn't know this is what we were dealing with." Like, so their banter I enjoyed a lot, but overall, I think that was pretty much it for me. Do I need to see another? I don't need another.
We don't
Venom
need
movie.
another Venom.
I will. I don't know. The problem is, I know this movie's going to do well, which is what I feared about on the first one. Because the first one, I was like, I didn't like this movie, but there's going to be a bunch of people who do, and they're going to make enough to make a sequel. And guess what? Here's a sequel, and we just reviewed it. So, and they're probably going to make another one. So, but I am excited to see him in the MCU, and I think that's going to be fun. And I can't wait to see how they put it all together. I hope they don't rush it. I hope they take their time. Marvel and Sony, work out all your problems now, because Sony, do what's right. You know that the stories work better with MCU, period, okay? And Tom Holland already has said he ain't doing another one unless the MCU is involved. So just make it happen. Put your pride aside. You don't make the movies as good as the MCU does, except Spider-Man 2, which is a fantastic movie. So, all right. So we're good.
One.
You got that. That one I'll give you. That one, you get no debate, no argument from me. And you did make Into the Spider-Verse, so.
Oh, they did. They did. You get that one too, and you gave me a little. You get a lot of stuff. You get a lot of awards.
You get a lot. You get it, but the two.
But don't,
you can be fine with two. Okay, that's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah, that's all we need. For
all
sure.
right, we're gonna wrap this up, guys. You remember, catch us every Tuesday live. Today is Tuesday, so if you're watching this video, make sure you come back and check us out later, because we're gonna do a live version of the show, so you guys can enjoy that. Like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff, so we can give away this mouth at 100 subs. So until we see you guys later, Fire Team out.